really just kind of hit the ground, and I bring you greetings from the Liberty Political Action Conference in Reno, Nevada. Friends there from Nevada and Washington State and Oregon and Utah and California, thank you for the work that we are doing in Texas and the work that, for those of you that are from the 14th Congressional District, have been doing for a long time to lead liberty in this country. We're celebrating Constitution Day today. We have a friend in Oklahoma who serves in the Oklahoma legislature who will tell us either the Constitution means what it says or it doesn't mean anything at all.
Amen.
And yet in Texas, we suited up a whole bunch of Republicans in the Texas legislature this time around, and all of you breathed a big sigh of relief in November. In fact, you were pretty excited about what we did around the country in the U.S. Congress, right? And then unless we've all been Rip Van Winkle, I think we sent troops to Libya with no declaration of war. We said don't raise the constitutional debt limit ceiling in Washington, D.C., and they did anyway. We told the Texas legislature that we wanted our borders secured. We told them we didn't want government involved in health care. We told them we wanted private property ownership. And we told them that we wanted a Second Amendment in Texas. And we're getting almost nothing.
Right. Exactly.
For those of you that have worked with me and on your own in grassroots political activism, we've talked for years about holding our elected officials accountable, right? And we want that oath of office to mean something, and we're going to hold them to it, and then we're going to work to elect someone else if they don't uphold their oath. And then they come home in August, or they get out of the Texas legislative session and they come back to their district and they sing a sad song of how difficult it is. And most of us, many of us in this room, and most of our neighbors will vote to re-elect them come the next election season. And I have marveled over that and worried over that and fretted over that, because you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. And we're not getting more free, and we're not getting closer to the U.S. Constitution. So what is the problem? 1823, Noah Webster published a book, a letter, a series of letters, if you will, to young people. He said to a young man pursuing his education, and he has some very strong and wise counsel for us in that letter. He says, as a citizen, exercise your rights with integrity and unshaken independence of mind. That does not mean turn on Rush Limbaugh and see what he's telling you to do. Bow at the feet of Michael Berry. It does not mean idolize Glenn Beck. He says exercise your rights with integrity and unshaken independence of mind. Webster talks about when we are young, we should follow obediently after the direction given to us by our parents. But as we get older, we should believe nothing. You're an adult. You better question what people tell you. You better not follow any more than it would be right to follow blindly Glenn Beck or Michael Berry or Rush Limbaugh. It is wrong to follow blindly Debra Medina or Ron Paul. election, and by golly, when we don't, you better call us on it, and you better give your vote to somebody else.
Right.
Thankfully, Congressman Paul has never failed that test, has he? No. Never. Webster says a submissive elector who yields to every varying degrees of popular opinion is a most contemptible character. We have a lot of neighbors that are most contemptible characters. Webster doesn't point his finger at the politicians who aren't upholding their oath of office. He points his finger at the voters. You make your decisions with an unshaken independence of mind, and you cast your vote based on principle. He said, in selecting men for office, let principle be your guide. Look to character, known principle, tried integrity. There's a man that the media will tell us is leading the polls in the presidential cycle. We know him well in this state. He doesn't pass the tried integrity test. He says one thing and he does something else, and yet recent polling in this state says 92% of conservatives who consider themselves aligned with the Tea Party support his candidacy. In selecting men for office, let principle be your guide. Look to character, known principle, tried integrity, and undoubted ability. Men of loose principles in religion and morality will say to you that religion and morality are not necessary. Even without divine instruction, your own experience ought to tell you that religion and morality, people that will honor their word, are essential characteristics of leadership.
Right.
We're electing one man in the United States to be our president. We're electing 450 members in the United States to be the Congress. In Texas, we have one governor, one lieutenant governor, one attorney general, 150 state reps, 31 state senators. Can we not find 200 men and women of integrity and principle in this great state? There is no excuse for us to vote for the lesser of two evils, and we keep doing it, and our neighbors keep doing it, and the problem is not the politician, the problem is us voters.
Yep.
Webster goes on to say, it's to the neglect of this rule, the failure to vote for people of principle, that we must ascribe the multiple frauds, breaches of trust, percolations, and embezzlements of public property which astonish us. Are you not surprised every day to see what else can they come up with? Where do they come up with some of these crazy ideas? The president's most recent jobs program. How do you dream that stuff up? Because any guy on the street with a 6th grade education can tell you that's not going to work.
Right.
Much less well-educated, experienced business people. And yet, we're astonished by what they do. Webster said, and it's almost as though he wrote this yesterday, when we vote this way, we sacrifice not only our own interest, but the interest of our neighbors, and we betray the interest of our country. He said, and this is a quote, if we neglect our duty to vote for unprincipled men, the government will soon be corrupted. Laws will be made not for the public good so much as for selfish or local purposes. Corrupt or incompetent men will be appointed to execute the laws. The public revenues will be squandered. That part he wrote and published in 1832 could have been written today. He said if a Republican government fails, he's not talking party. This is a democracy. This is a republic. If a Republican government fails to secure public prosperity and happiness, it must be because the citizens neglect these commands. He doesn't say it's because we have bad politicians. He said it's because the citizens neglect these commands and elect bad men. If you go back and read the writings of Thomas Jefferson, after the Constitutional Convention, after the Revolutionary War, we are drafting our Constitution. We have a convention. The Constitution is drafted. Jefferson is in Paris. He's working on our behalf there, and there's a series of letters that go back and forth between Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, and Madison is explaining to him what all is happening here in the United States. And in one of those letters, Jefferson says, you know, there are several things that I like, and he lists in pretty short order the things that he likes about the proposed U.S. Constitution. But he says, now let me get to the things that I don't like. The first thing I don't like is that the proposed Constitution did not have a Bill of Rights. Remember that? And we remedied that problem. He spends just a little part of his letter talking about why it's bad that drafted Constitution does not have a Bill of Rights. But do you know what the second thing was that he disliked? And his words are, and the second thing I dislike, and I dislike very greatly, is the fact that we didn't have term limits. He said, if we do not limit people's time in office, they will serve for life. And everything that we have fought for, coming away from the royalty in England, we will get right here in the United States of America. We better start turning over these elected officials. There are more than 200 good men and women who are capable of serving in Texas in the leadership of our state. And there are more than 450 people in the United States of America who are capable of leading in the U.S. Congress. But it's not the politicians that are going to fix that. It's the people. We're here today to celebrate Constitution Day, and yet we can scour the nation and find very few in elected office who believe in upholding the U.S. or, for that matter, their own state constitution. We have a 9th and 10th Amendment that talks about the sovereignty of the states, and back to Jefferson and Madison, who both understood that the federal government would grow well beyond Article 1 and Section 8 unless the states did their job. And they fully expected that the states were going to have to exercise their sovereign authority. Today it's laughable what the states do to exercise the 9th and 10th Amendment. They violate the Constitution daily, and the states say, we don't like that very much, would you quit please? And they say, no, we won't. And we say, okay. You might shut down air traffic in Texas? Okay, we'll let you continue to do your TSA searches. What section is the EPA in? Article 1, Section 8, Clause. And yet, here in this energy-rich state, in this state that thrives on energy and agriculture, the EPA dictates to us what we will and will not do. And we give lip service to fighting them. If we're to return to that free republic, that prosperous nation, that nation that understands that it is private property ownership and gun ownership that gives men their freedom and allows them to work and secure the prosperity for themselves and their families, if we're going to get back to that, not only are we going to have to watch how we vote, but we're going to have to help our neighbors. I have been very grateful, y'all have heard me say before, to Al Gore for inventing the internet. And we use it, and it is a great tool for us. It is our media outlet. It has helped spread the true message of liberty and the abuses that are occurring by the banksters and the elite establishment to control not only our nation, but other nations around the globe. We use that tool, but we are not as effective as we're going to have to be with those who are advocating the election or the re-election of the very people who are stealing our freedoms every day. And I'm going to challenge you today as you go back tomorrow and this evening and you watch these upcoming election cycles. We are fully in the swing now. The Texas filing deadline has been moved up to December. So everybody that's on the ballot in Texas in March of 2012 will have to have made that decision by December. And you're going to see campaigns already starting and ramping up and getting busier. We have got to test these candidates. Remember Webster said, let principle be your guide. Look to character, known principle, tried integrity, and undoubted ability. I had a state rep. I'm gonna diverge down a path for just a second to give you an example of what I'm talking about. We had a state rep running in our district. We had a gentleman running for state rep. He has since been elected and served a couple of terms, much to my dismay, in the Texas House. He advocates for red light cameras and statewide smoking bans and health insurance exchanges and all things big government. He claimed that he was a pro-life candidate. He had never been politically active. You say, Deborah, how do we try the integrity of someone that's never cast a vote? Every one of you are engaged in business and life in your community. There are abuses all around us. If you want to step up and lead my state, I want to see where you've taken a stand. Show me in your life. If you tell me you're pro-life, show me in your life some evidence that that's an important thing for you. If you tell me you're pro-gun, show me in your life that that's an important thing to you. What evidence do you have to demonstrate that that's important? We better start trying the integrity of these folks before we put them into office. And when they fail, we better get serious about telling us they're not going to get our vote. Quit voting for people who don't earn your vote. If there's not a candidate on the ballot that has not passed your test for principle and tried integrity, then you skip that race. And when they begin to see that 550 people showed up in that precinct to vote, but 100 of them didn't vote in my race, they're going to begin to wonder, why is it you're skipping over your county commissioner's race? I'm skipping that race, sir, because while you may have won re-election, you didn't earn my vote and you're not going to get it. When you start sending that message, maybe then we'll begin to see a change. We suited up a bunch of folks who called themselves conservative, constitutional Republicans, and we got big government out of Washington, and we got big government in Texas. Every Texas state representative and every Texas state senator is on the ballot in March of 2012. Consider serving if you're in a position that you can do that for your state. It is a 2-year term. If you're running for the House, a 4-year term. Usually, if you're running for the Senate, some of those Senate seats will be 2-year terms this time because of redistricting. But every Texas senator, every Texas representative, and every Texas congressman is up for re-election or election in March of 2012. I hope we'll heed Webster's counsel and begin to look at the votes we're casting, begin to very diplomatically but very forthrightly say to those folks on Facebook and other social media sites when they are advocating the election of people who have demonstrated that they will not keep their oath of office, that we must change our behavior as voters. Either the Constitution means what it says, or it doesn't mean anything at all. I know that you are encouraged as Congressman Paul travels around the country and shares and has more of a national media spotlight. You are encouraged by his words that there are many around the country who are awakening to the message of the Constitution and liberty and freedom and are beginning to grasp that. We have a tremendous amount of work to do, but the fields are ripe. People are beginning to question whether or not what they have thought was good is really good. And yet the perplexities continue. In Reno yesterday, I believe it was Jack Hunter who said he was traveling and saw a truck with 3 bumper stickers. And abortion stops beating life. Beating heart. How many of you have seen that bumper sticker, right? An NRA bumper sticker and a Rudy Giuliani for president bumper sticker. So we still see those things and wonder, how is that possible? And we see that same sort of behavior in this election cycle in the presidential race, and I dare say we're going to see it in U.S. House, and Texas Senate races. It's up to those of us that are paying attention. It's up to you to pay attention, to knock on the window of that truck and say, hey, sir, I'm curious about your bumper stickers, and engage these folks, and let's start not only holding our elected officials accountable, but holding one another accountable for the votes that we cast and the candidates that we support. Thank you for the work you're doing in Texas. Thank you to the folks from Brazoria County who put this event on today. It's wonderful to see folks celebrating again the Constitution.